He started as a boy with a notebook, scribbling short stories. Lamin Jallow, a name that now resonates with resilience and inspiration. As a young boy, Lamin discovered his passion for writing, but beyond the pages, he had a much bigger dream to become a doctor.
Because growing up, I remember, developing a passion that I want to be a medical doctor. And my reason for being a medical doctor or wanting to be a medical doctor is to save lives, right? I believe it is the only means through which you impact lives directly. Like you put a smile on the face of another person, like you bring someone back to life, you bring hope to someone who is hopeless. Uh, and that is because I grew up with the belief that a life that is blessed to believe in the service of other people, right? But unfortunately, nature was like, okay, this is going to happen, and your dreams for becoming a doctor would fade someday, right? And they faded when I, ventured into the accident. I know some people would be like, okay, they choose their career path on the basis of the most difficult circumstances that happened to them. I know, right? But in my case, it was different. I already chose or developed a passion for something. But when this struck, I was like, okay, I'm not sure I'll be able to uh, continue with this particular dream of mine. Or maybe I was never created to be a doctor, right? I was created to be something different. So that's how uh, the narrative started changing.
But life, as it often does, had other plans. At an early age, Lamin was involved in an accident. Months in recovery forced him to confront not only physical pain, but the painful realization that his dream of becoming a doctor might no longer be possible.
I was involved in an accident, let me put it that way. It actually, I wouldn't say delayed me, but it redefined what actually I believe I was meant to be, to who actually nature brought me to be. Yeah, on that bed, when that accident happened to me, when it occurred, I underwent multiple surgeries. Yeah, so during these surgeries, I think it was the second or the third one. Uh, in the middle of the surgery, electricity went off. That was a very difficult moment for my family. Very, very difficult moment. Like you have a child who was very happy, he got into a situation. The next thing is he's in the theater and electricity would go off. That is a very difficult moment. But fortunately for me, it was a private clinic and they have a standby generator. You know, though it affected me a little, but my life did not end there. As I have seen in many situations where people would die as a result of, let's say they were in theater, electricity went off and power wasn't restored, for a long while or a long period, and they eventually succumb to those circumstances. So my case could have been that, but I am grateful that I'm here. So on that sick bed, when I recover and that scenario was narrated to me, I was like, okay, what do I do? In my mind, I wanted to be a doctor. I don't think I can be able to realize that dream. So I made a promise to my doctor that you've strived so hard to ensure that I did not die. I mean, these private clinic people, they are business oriented. He could have said, I have other patients waiting on me. Let me go and make more money. But he stayed with me. Psychological support. He would be counseling me. He dedicated his time and attention to me. And I was like, I'm going to grow. I don't know when, but I'm also going to study something that is going to be related to me being there for national development.
Rather than give up, Lamin chose a new path, one that will allow him to help his country in a different way. He pursued political science, determined to influence the very policies that shape the lives of Gambians every day.
And that was the path I took. That was the path which led me to study uh, arts as a field. Then, when I transited to the university, I decided to study political science. And my intention is to become a policy maker so that we can rewrite the policy structures of this country, which are ravaging beyond repair. The system is very bad. It's rotten to the core. Sometimes want to believe that it is beyond repair, but I believe the younger generation, especially some of us who have gone through the wars, would be able to use our stories or the circumstances we face to enable us or to be our guiding light for us to be able to at least right the wrongs in this country. So basically, those moments where what I used to trans- translate into writing.
Lamin recounts the accident as a sobering experience and said up to now he could not talk about it in details.
I mean, it's something that is undescribable because it's a terrible one, right? It's a terrible one. Like the only thing that I'd be able to say is one. It was one that uh, actually made not only the people around me see a different me, but me as an individual. Like uh, I've I've evolved, right? Not like the positive kind of evolution where you would, move from, grass, you going to grace, or you stepping, chronologically on a ladder that you actually desire. Uh, it was an unfortunate incident that happened, and one thing led to the other. As I said, probably someday I'll be able to narrate the details of that accident, like piece by piece. But still now, talking about it or wanting to talk about it itself, it's kind of emotional to me, right? I don't think I have healed on that aspect, but it was something undesirable that happened, something supposed to go for surgery. One surgery led to the other, then the other to the other, and here I am. It led to a completely different shift, not only in my way of thinking and not only in structure and everything, but my entire life took a completely different switch.
He graduated from the University of the Gambia in 2025. His journey marked not by setbacks but by strength, and now his story has become a symbol of hope.
Is I've allowed multiple people to lean on me. And when I transited to the university, immediately I was a second year student. I started assuming student leadership responsibilities. I have mentees. I connected with over hundreds of people, right? Whom I share ideas with, whom I've been there for, and a lot of things happen, in between, right? So I would say I am still on my calling, even though it's in a different phase. That is, I am not a doctor. I wouldn't be a doctor, but again, the impact that I want to create in the lives of people, I still is there, even though it is a little minimal, compared to if I was a doctor. There, I would be directly saving lives, right?
His new anthology, titled Between Grief and Grace, is a deeply personal collection of poems chronicling his childhood experience and the journey that followed.
I did publish a book early this year. The book is titled Between Grief and Grace. So, starting from the title, it is one that is deliberately selected out of the many uh, we had in mind. So it is not one that defines me as an individual, but it defines the situations of a lot of people. Between Grief and Grace is basically the title of the anthology. It features poems, like I said, that are drawn from my personal experiences, but these experiences also reflect the experiences of, almost every growing young man and woman, right? And the catalyst for the publication of this book is one friend of mine, Sally Jame. We used to have those deep conversations. She's like an elder sister to me, who is not reserved when it comes to sharing stories with me. We connect, we discuss almost everything. So there was this fateful day. She was like, "Do you know that the world needs to read your writings?" Right. So it is from that moment that okay, I realized probably this is not only going to be a hobby for me, a therapy for me, but it's somehow turning into a calling. Probably it was a calling throughout, but I used to limit it to myself and those in my inner circle who I believe share similar stories. You read, comfort yourself. I mean, some people would be like, when I read this, I remember XYZ, or I remember, this particular situation that used to happen to me. That is the goal of writing. You create an impact, you make people reflect, you give people hope, you inspire people.
He hopes his poems will inspire his readers to keep going and not to give up in whatever they are facing.
You don't know whose life you're going to change. You don't know who, you're going to take to the next level as a result of reading your writing. Some have been in situations that cannot be compared to yours. Probably yours is more terrible than them, but they believe that they never going to be able to do anything in life or attain anything, right? But reading some of these poems would inspire them to know that, okay, someone somewhere has gone through something more terrible than me, and let me also dust myself off and strive to, either creating an impact or realizing my potential. So
He said the lack of motivation and financial support has hindered many young writers from realizing their full potentials.
from writing, and that is what makes it very difficult for writers to realize their potential, or for them to be able to, attain certain amount of progress when it comes to their writing journeys. I mean, it's not only about me, but I have known a lot of friends. I've known a lot of people who are into writing, but they're not able to publish anything because the support is not there, right? We don't have that, support that I believe, would be able to motivate us as young writers. So yeah, the motivation was not there. I mean, generally,
From dreams of healing bodies to hopes of healing a nation, Lamin Jallow reminds us that even the most painful detours can lead to powerful destinations. In between grief and grace, Lamin gives voice to a generation that knows both struggle and strength. His words, shaped by hardship, now shape hearts. For GTV News, I'm Lamin MCC.